Oh, I started the wrong one. Don't. Did not mean to do that. I had put it on the scene because I had accidentally deleted this whole background thingy, and I had to go find it again in the deep recesses of my downloads folder, and I got it back up just for the show, and well, there we are. Anyway, we got a couple big news items. Big news item number one is Rosa refiled her amended complaint, so she was allowed to do a third amended complaint in Florida. And let's hope that the judge actually reads this, because it explains everything so crystal clearly that someone who has no background in this should be able to go, oh, yeah, that's messed up. We should fix that. We'll read through the meaty parts in this. And then also, Russia's at civil war. There's a coup happening between the Wagner Group, I can never say it right, Prigozhin, whatever his name is, the leader of the Wagner Group, is essentially trying to overthrow the Ministry of Defense, and they are attacking Russian soldiers. Russian soldiers are attacking them. Their headquarters have been raided by Spetsnaz. One of their home bases, the 10th Armored Brigade or whatever, who's roomed with them, has joined forces with Wagner Group, and the riot control police are trying to raid their headquarters there, and it's just a lot is happening in the last 2 hours. Russian soldiers are getting shelled from behind by the Wagner groups, so they're getting attacked by the Ukrainians on one side and the Wagner on the other. And the Wagner group is way better equipped than the Russian military itself. So guys like this don't do a coup unless they know they can win, because they know that the ultimate ending for this, if they lose, is that they just line everybody up against a bulkhead and that's it. So there's a lot unfolding right now. We'll see. I might do a short after dark show, kind of giving a update as to what's happening in Russia. A lot of stuff happens overnight, because that's the best time to do all of your weird attacks. So it's nighttime now over there, and things are getting wild. They're getting super duper crazy wild. Okay, bam. Okay. Well, might as well read Rosa's filing. So let's go there now. Live from the garden. Bam. Okay, so there isn't a crazy amount of stuff that we haven't seen before on this at all. And let me just one sec. I want to resize. Okay, that go there. That seems to be okay. Everything's resized. All right, so away we go. So we got naming the parties. So we got Rosa, plaintiff. Defendant is probably non-relevant parties. So we got parties and non-relevant parties. We got FINRA is the defendant in this, and then naming metamaterials and MMTLP next bridge. Okay, so essentially what the first chunk of paragraphs, and there's, I don't know, 70 of them or something, it's just sort of laying out who the players are, what they are, how, the timeline of events. So talking about how FINRA is a market participant with a net income of $218 million dollars in 2021, over $1.7 billion in investment assets as of December 31st, 2021. Defendant's Board of Governors names them. Nextbridge Hydrocarbons, the private corporation that has acquired the oil and gas assets currently titled to the Series A preferred MMTLP stock. she's laying out them. Talking about Torchlight. So it's like almost like a glossary definition. Torchlight was the original company that became NextBridge. AST is the transfer agent. Fidelity Investments, multinational brokerage firm. Robinhood Securities, registered broker, dealer. Jurisdiction, venue. So says this action is for equitable relief. She's not suing for money. She just wants a change in behavior, right? Plaintiff is an individual who resides in Florida. Defendant is entity principal business in the District of Columbia, saying FINRA is based in D.C. Defendant maintains sufficient contacts with the state of Florida by regulating investors within the state, and that they have a registered agent for their business dealings in Florida. Okay. And the court has subject matter jurisdiction over this under rule blah, 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 blah of the Exchange Act. So now she's giving the background. She talks about how Reg Show was created to regulate short sale practice in an effort to eliminate naked short selling practices, which we all know is giant loopholes. So explains what options are, explains what short sales are, and so how you borrow shares, you sell them, hopefully go back in the market and buy them cheaper. And then explains what a naked short sale is, which is when you sell shares you don't have. It's illegal and artificially increases the stock's liquidity. And then explains what a failure to deliver is, which is basically when you sell a stock you don't have and then don't deliver it. Oh no, you just committed fraud, right? And explains how if they fail to deliver, it has to be closed in 13 days, yada, yada, yada. So the dividends are the regulatory agencies, how they have no authority over privately held companies. And then self-regulatory agencies, which FINRA is, and they're granted their authority by Congress under the Securities and Exchange Commission. And then explains blue sheet data is files contain trading information. Explains what a QSIP number is. This is basically, it's just a giant glossary of terms, right? We're just going through this thing, talking about what brokers are, what a hedge fund is, explaining the schools of thought in short selling, basically one that can be used to destabilize publicly shared companies, and that has become a pariah used to borrow and drop large amounts of shares at a time to artificially create a market influx, reducing a company's stock value. If done enough, a company whose share prices have been reduced by shorting may file for bankruptcy, at which point the borrowed shares are canceled and the short sellers do not need to close their short positions by buying back their borrowed shares. Those of this school of thought believe that options trading effectively contributes the same function to the market in an organized and regulated way without the same adverse effects on the market and without the same potential for illegal naked short selling. Or that short selling serves as a healthy contribution to the market in high risk management because it facilitates secondary market trading through improved discovery and liquidity that provides a check on upward market manipulation. So there's the two school of thoughts. I don't know if you guys noticed that Forbes published this big old article. It's like, naked short selling isn't a problem. It never happens. Completely ignoring that 9 days earlier, the SEC busted Savvy for naked short selling to manipulate stocks. Okay, facts of the case. So this is now going to be the timeline of what's in here. On or about February 11th, 2021 and February 12th, 2021, plaintiff purchased shares of Torchlight Energy Services. So she bought her shares in 2021. On or about June 8th, June 9th, June 11th, June 14th, plaintiff purchased shares in Torchlight Energy Resources. On or about June 14th, 2021, the prospectus for a merger of Torchlight and Metamaterials was filed, designated 199,500,000 shares of Series A preferred stock as the preferred dividend, in a one-for-one basis of shareholders as the date of record entitling them to the dividend of the future sale of Torchlight oil and gas assets. So this is, she's saying, hey, when they merge, everyone who has these Torchlight stocks is going to get one piece of this oil field. On or about June 28, 2021, Torchlight Energy Resources completed a merger with Meta, creating a 1-to-2 split, resulting in plaintiff ownership of stock shares in Meta Series A preferred stock labeled MMTLP. Wing! Got our MMTLP, got our MMAT out of it as well. Announcement that MMTLP would spin out into NextBridge, a private held company, was made on or about July 15, 2022. NextBridge filed S1 prospectus. On or about September 6, 2022, NextBridge filed its first S1A prospectus amendment on or about October 5th, 2022. NextBridge filed its second S1A prospectus amendment on or about October 21, 2022. NextBridge filed its third on or about November 9th. NextBridge filed its fourth. And on or about 18th of 2022, Securities and Exchange Commission filed a file number 33, blah, 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 notice of effectiveness of the NextBridge prospectus. Basically, they amended. NextBridge got the approval from the SEC saying, go private, young man. And on or about November 25th, the final prospectus was filed by the Securities and Exchange Commission pursuant to Rule 424B4. Final prospectus of NextBridge Hydrocarbons indicates a record date of the spinoff of December 12, 2022, and that each one share of Meta's Series A non-voting preferred stock outstanding as of close of business New York City time on December 12, 2022, the record date for the spinoff, will entitle the holder thereof to receive one share of common stock. On or about December 5th, 2022, FINRA employee Sam Drady emailed that we are blue sheeting both metamaterial and MMTLP as we speak. See attached here to as Exhibit A. Therefore, blue sheets on MMTLP are available to satisfy plaintiff's request. On or about December 6th, 2022, the defendant filed a daily list event attached here to as Exhibit B with a notice. MMTLP shareholders with settled positions as of 12/12/22. Record date will receive one share of NextBridge Hydrocarbons Incorporated for every one share of MMTLP held on pay date of 12/14/22. Purchases of MMTLP executed after 12/8/22 will not receive the distribution. MMTLP shares will be canceled effective 12/13/2022. Emphasis added. On or about December 8th, 2022, defendant filed a daily list event attached here to as Exhibit C with the notice, see daily list of 12/6/2022 announcement, revised. MMTLP shareholders with settled positions as of 12/12/22 receive one share of NextBridge Hydrocarbons Incorporated for every one share of MMTLP held. Purchases of MMTLP executed after 12/8/2022 will not receive the distribution. Symbol MMTLP will be deleted effective 12/13/22, emphasis added. So the big change here is they changed canceled to deleted. I don't know if you guys remember when the FINRA lawyers responded originally to Rosa, they did not know the difference between canceled and deleted. If a stock is canceled, then shorts never have to pay it back. If it's deleted, it's just changed tickers then. Okay. The language of both defendants' daily list notices clearly indicate the purchases will continue after 12/8/2022. By iterating purchases after 12/8/2022 will not have implications for ownership for NextBridge Hydrocarbons Incorporated. On or about December 9th, 2022, and before business trading hours, the defendant instructed all brokers, market makers, intermediaries of retail investors to preclude and prevent the quoting, trading, sale, purchase, exchange, conveyance, and otherwise disposal or evaluation of all MMTLP stock. On or about December 9th, 2022, defendant issued a trading advisory declaring that the halted trading and quoting will end concurrent with the deletion of the symbol. As of December 9th, 2022, defendant has issued a total halt and restraint on trade before convergence into a private company and the deletion of the current MMTLP Series A preferred dividend stock. In total, shares of Torchlight at the time of merger as described in the prospectus are 200 million shares. The total outstanding shares across the stock exchange are over 300 million shares. See Exhibit F, CNBC reporting attached here too. The difference in reported shares and actual shares can only be the result of shorted positions and borrowed shares subject to failure to deliver, creating synthetic shares and thus dilution of NextBridge Hydrocarbons via MMTLP shares. Regulations show specifically enabled Section 10B21 of the Exchange Act, the same act creating the defendant, to combat fraudulent trades and manipulative schemes such as naked short selling. Market makers and brokerages have not recovered borrowed shares and reconciled their short selling and failure to deliver positions in order to preserve the integrity of the spinoff. So basically she's saying, Your Honor, the law that created FINRA also says that their job is to combat fraudulent schemes like naked short selling. So they're not doing their job. When they say they're doing their job, they're not doing it. Defendant does not have legal purview over privately held NextBridge Hydrocarbons and has prevented shareholders of NextBridge Hydrocarbons from being ascertained and therefore has created a complex nexus between itself and shareholders of MMTLP. So she's saying that because they didn't force close these positions, now the company's a private company and it's screwed up. That who owns what is completely indeterminable, and their actions has resulted in injury to owners of these shares. During defendant's halt on trading, defendant has identified and listed 2 failure to deliver notices. See Exhibit D attached here too. The nature of failures to deliver evidence loaned shares and short selling of Series A preferred dividend. The failures to deliver, which are triggered after a 2-day settlement period, indicate delivery is being called during the halt and failure occurring during the halt. So basically saying the last day of trading, people were selling shares they didn't have. Then they stopped trading, and there was no way people actually got shares from that because there's no way to go back in the market and buy them back. The failures to deliver after the halt demonstrate at best that the defendant is aware of outstanding naked short positions and failed to protect the integrity of private company Knightsbridge Hydrocarbons, who is not under the regulatory scheme of the defendant. So basically, they halted trading. There were failures to deliver in the ensuing days, and there was no way to buy them back and to make good on those promises of those purchases for the buyers. And FINRA went out of its way to create an environment that made it impossible to rectify those trades. Thus, the defendant created a complex nexus between self-shareholders and Knightsbridge. Okay. During defendant's halt on trading, changes in shares available for lending has been recorded as evidence in the graph and list figures on iBorrowDesk.com. See Exhibit E attached here too. Defendant's halt has effectively insulated brokerages that have over-leveraged borrowed shares and has prevented the reconciliation of market makers and brokerages for the shorting positions of MMTLP at the expense of retail investors, whom the defendant is charged to protect in its inception. So she's saying that FINRA uses powers to hurt the people it's supposed to protect. So I think what she's trying to hammer home to the judge here is that when FINRA argues that they were working within the purview of their powers granted to them by Congress, they were not. They instead were harming the people they were charged by Congress to protect. And they went out of their way to do it. So their actions cannot be seen as, we're protecting the investors, when in fact that they're harming us. On or about December 12, 2022, various brokers, including but not limited to Fidelity Investments and Robinhood, provided a QSIP number attached to a placeholder for MMTLP and failure to deliver shares of NextBridge. Placeholders provided vary from broker to broker and are not shares in a company, nor Series A preferred shares attached to an asset or company dividend. Basically saying there's so many naked shares out there that these guys had to make a whole bunch of IOUs, make them look kind of official, almost like shares, in order to sort of cover up their oopsies, I guess would be what we're trying to say there. Defendant claims to have deleted MMTLP. However, shares of private company Knightsbridge Hydrocarbons have not been distributed to a majority of shareholders due to fraudulent trade practices that have created an impossibility of Knightsbridge Hydrocarbons to be distributed to shareholders of MMTLP. Months of failures to deliver due to saturation of the market and dilution of shares by broker shorting without enforcement or regulation has allowed the company the defendant has no legal regulatory authority over to suffer loss and dilution of interest, and has led to a failure to ascertain shareholders and a failure to call a shareholder meeting, among other legal harms incurred due to defendant's actions. She's saying FINRA purposely fucked up. They purposely avoided doing what they could to help investors, and then they went out of their way to make it even worse by harming a company they no longer have purview over. Basically, she's just saying that they screwed up. Fix this. Over and over and over and over. As of the date of this filing, more than 6 months since the actions of the defendant and the spin-off of MMTLP to Knightsbridge Hydrocarbons, the plaintiff has not received any shares to Knightsbridge Hydrocarbons. AST, the private company that is a platform to host the shares for Knightsbridge Hydrocarbons, does not have shares allocated to the plaintiff, although through such settlement date of December 14, 2023, plaintiff held shares in both Robinhood and Fidelity accounts. Plaintiff's request for an accounting. Plaintiff's request for an accounting under Florida law. Plaintiff hereby incorporates and realleges paragraphs 1 through 69, 69, as if fully set forth herein. Under Florida law, in order to obtain an accounting, a party must show either 1, a sufficiently complicated transaction, an inadequate remedy of law, or at law, or 2, the existence of fiduciary relationship. Blah, 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 blah. Despite the undersigned's best attempt to simplify the underlying chain of events, the aforementioned alleged facts suggest that this is a highly complicated set of transactions for which no sufficient transparency exists. The defendant further complicated the transaction by failing to service public interest as charged in its inception. The defendant further complicated transaction by failing to serve public interest and oversee a publicly traded asset, neither company nor corporate entity of any sort, and enforce compliance with regulations show, Rule 10b-21, locate requirement for short trade selling. There are several entities involved with mostly hidden market activity. It is the duty of the defendant to regulate, oversee, and overhaul much of the complexities that are faced in this case. Plaintiff has sought an equitable remedy because no adequate remedy exists at law. Florida courts have defined fiduciary obligations broadly to extend to every possible case in which there is confidence reposed on one side and resulting superiority and influence on the other. The rule embraces both The rule embraces both technical fiduciary relations and those informal relations which exist whenever one man trusts in and relies upon another. Basically saying, in this situation, FINRA has the power, and we lay people do not. And they have the fiduciary duty to take our concerns at heart and not harm us. And they have harmed us. They took that power, that fiduciary power that they have, and they use it against us here. So we need an accounting to figure out just how we got screwed. Self-regulatory organizations such as the defendant have a fiduciary duty to all retail investors as they take upon themselves the burden of regulating the industry in which they are an investor themselves. So she's hitting home that they also participate in the market to the tune of $1.7 billion in assets. Self-regulatory organizations such as the defendant created a superiority and influence on public investors by their very existence, which is to instill public confidence in the markets. Superiority is imposed by self-regulatory organizations previous to information that investors are not aware of. In this instant case, the investors are subject to loss of property while the defendant holds vital information and exercises superiority. The defendant has fiduciary duty to allow for the fair and equitable trade at market value and has instead facilitated the protections of broker-dealers at the expense of shareholders whom they are charged to protect, and thus entitling the plaintiff to an accounting under Florida law. She's saying, they harmed me, they had the fiduciary duty to protect me, and they didn't, so now they need to show me exactly how they screwed me. That's what she's saying. The Florida law demands that they show her the books. Plaintiff's request for an accounting under federal law. Plaintiff hereby incorporates and releges paragraphs 1 through 80 as if full set forth herein. Quote, a bill of accounting lies where there is a debt or other legal liability, but where by reason of a need for discovery and the intricacy of the fact situation involved, a jury would not be an appropriate tribunal to hear the cause, and the legal remember is consequently inadequate, blah, 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 even where no fiduciary relation exists. So basically saying you need accounting because shit's fucked up. An accounting is a species of compulsory disclosure predicated upon the assumption that the party seeking relief does not have the means to determine how much, or in fact whether, any money properly is being held by another. So, if I paid for something and I did not get that something back, someone's holding my money and I'm holding a bag of dog shit. So we need to figure out who has our money and who has bought bags of dog shit. Another. So it's defining another, which indicates that the court intentionally did not distinguish or illustrate a requirement on the relationship between the parties, except that the party seeking relief does not have the means to determine without access to the accounting of such other party. Surely the defendant is another to the plaintiff. Basically saying, the plaintiff has the goods, show it to me. The appropriate remedy, particularly where the determinations may be detailed and complex, is an order to account. In a proceeding in which the burden of establishing the non-existence of money due to the plaintiff rests upon the defendant, the burden cannot rest upon the plaintiff, but must shift to the defendant, one fact giving rise to a duty to account have been alleged and admitted. It's basically saying, since they've got the data, they need to give it to us. because we can't get it any other way. They are the holders of that data. Kitty, are you having a little dry heave, buddy? Did you eat your pill? Huh? Yeah. Asthma attack for the fat boy. Eat your pill, bud. You gotta go eat your pill. Okay. Defendant, by the very nature of its position in the Exchange Act, which birthed it, charged it with the duty to facilitate public trust and protect private investors in the public exchange markets. The Exchange Act and the Dodd-Frank Act, Section 913, under which Congress has granted authority to the SEC, and thus the defendant, was instituted to instill public confidence and trust in the markets and increase investor protection and decrease investor confusion in the most practicable, least burdensome way for investors. Basically, they need to get their shit together and do what Congress prescribed to them via their authority and quit screwing us over. In an overtly complex transaction where the defendant has admitted to complexities and inquiries into fraudulent actions, shareholders have waited more than 6 months and still not been provided 1. Avenues to take action. Shareholders cannot be determined and cannot seek their shareholder rights. 2. Justiciability. No parties nor information have come forward allowing shareholders to seek judicial intervention. 3. Information. No information regarding short positions or reconciliation has been provided at all. 4. Shares to private company Nextbridge Hydrocarbons. The plaintiff has not received private shares to Nextbridge Hydrocarbons. 5. Any remedy or attempt to settle. And 6. Any claims to accountability by the defendant or any of its members that have participated in the trading of MMTLP. While the defendant can be found to have fiduciary duty by the very nature of its post, the federal elements for an accounting do not require a fiduciary duty, and thus an accounting is appropriate whether or not this court finds the defendant owes the public, the private investors, a fiduciary duty. Defendant is not entitled to immunity. She's making this its own section because the judge is like, but they have immunity, and they do not. The defendant is immune from money damages as a result of investment loss of retail investors. However, this does not give the defendant sweeping immunity to be beyond judicial reach. The defendant serves 2 functions. 1, as a self-regulatory organization to promulgate and enforce rules governing the conduct of its members. And 2, as a multi-billion-dollar private investment organization whose net income in 2021 was $1.4 billion, with 90% of assets being cash and investments, whose CEO received a salary of $3.12 million. Because of the duality of the function and private business interests, such as interest in trading volume and market activity, courts should review the pertinent conduct and determine whether the conduct was protected by immunity claims. Court must examine the invocation of absolute immunity on a case-by-case basis. DL Capital Group versus NASDAQ, blah, blah, blah. Given the significant protection, courts have cautioned that the doctrine is of rare and exceptional character, citation, until shareholders can be ascertained to exercise shareholder rights or reconciliation occurs, shareholders are deprived with no remedy available. To completely deprive shareholders of judicial remedy would be an extreme use of the doctrine. When an exchange engages in conduct to operate its own market that is distinct from its oversight role, it is acting as a regulated entity, not a regulator, as found in Merritt Securities versus Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. To determine 1, the defendant was acting in their official capacity, or 2, as an investor regulated entity working in a concerted effort to suppress the fulfillment of contractual obligations of shareholders, and accounting must be furnished. The order granted in Amerivet Securities was decided based upon the losses of the plaintiff and the inquiry into the action of the defendant. It was not based on the member firm relationship of the plaintiff to the defendant. The order was granting an equitable right to information so that the plaintiff may seek legal remedies to remediate their loss and to inquire into the actions of the defendant due to the credible showing of potential mismanagement. It's basically the argument FINRA made was that, well, yeah, Amerivet Securities could sue them because they're a member of FINRA. And she's hitting home that no, this lawsuit had nothing to do with their membership relationship to each other. That was completely outside that scope. So that, yes, they can be sued even by people in actions that don't have to do with being members of FINRA. In the instant case where mismanagement has been admitted in emails by the defendant's own agents, and where it has been over 6 months, the plaintiff still has not received shares, there is a credible showing of mismanagement. In a landmark Supreme Court case, Axon Enterprises Incorporated versus FTC, decided April 14, 2023, and attached here too as Exhibit H. District courts have jurisdiction when preclusion of that jurisdiction could foreclose all meaningful judicial review. Another citation. The court ruled that a here and now injury, which is impossible to remedy when the illegitimate administrative reviews that occur would cause any remedy to come late to be meaningful. When asked before the Supreme Court whether district courts may hear cases from those seeking to enjoin the administrative process against the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Federal Trade Commission, the Supreme Court has ruled the answer is yes. So basically, she's hitting home that her only form of remedy is through the courts, and that is this judge, Single's court, and that he has the power to do something about this. And FINRA can argue all it wants that you can't do this, but you can do this. The Supreme Court has ruled in effect that the SEC is not beyond judicial review before the district courts, and thus the defendant, an entity under purview of the SEC, is not beyond the reach of this honorable court. The parties in Axon case chose to sidestep the administrative proceedings and bring their case to district court, where the question of immunity presented itself, and the Supreme Court of this great nation deemed that the SEC is not beyond the jurisdiction of the district court. It follows then that the defendant, an entity under the SEC, cannot be beyond the jurisdiction of the court. Supreme Court Justice Kagan's opinion summarized this in his own words, or her own words. Whether the district courts have jurisdiction to hear those suits, which have sidestepped the administrative process and suit against the SEC, the answer is yes. An argument to the contrary is nonsensical and fails to appreciate the flexibility and aspirations of the judicial system to pursue justice. So prayer for relief. Wherefore, the petitioner respectfully requests this court enter an order granting 1. FINRA produce to the plaintiff a full accounting and or blue sheets of all trades, short positions, options, and calls for stock held in street name, MMTLP, and MMAT. 2. FINRA produce to plaintiff a full accounting of and all blue sheets of any and all designated transfers to next for hydrocarbons. 3. Plaintiff an award for reasonable attorney's fees and costs. And 4. Granting such other relief the court may determine as just and proper. Filed, bam, sent in. So, I need a sip of water. That was a lot of reading. One sec. Okay. Big Houston. Oh, fucking A. Russia's at civil war, and I am at civil war with myself right now. That it's completely just erasing my brain. Shall we start over? Cat, I feel you, man. Okay. All right. So what Rosa did here is she's hitting home that the judge made an improper ruling on her original complaints. She's hitting home again and again and again that FINRA has two parts, as a Jekyll and Hyde part to it. And when they claim they were acting within the regulatory capacity, she's showing that what the regulatory capacity is to protect investors, and they didn't protect investors. And so the court has to help her get a remedy out of this, because there's no other way for her to get a remedy. And then she's hitting home that she's been injured, that she doesn't have the stock she paid for. She doesn't know who has that stock or who has her money that she used to get that stock, right? And that because she doesn't have the information that FINRA knows they have, she cannot figure out who to sue to get her stuff, right? Or to get her money, one or the other. And that this court is the only place where that remedy can be made. There's no other place that can do it. So she's basically telling the judge, like, hey, I've been injured. You know I've been injured. FINRA knows I've been injured. Everyone else in the world knows I've been injured. And FINRA is the only body on earth that A, injured me, and B, can tell me who I can go look for to figure out where my stuff is. So it's I've had to read a lot of legal filings for someone who's not a lawyer. And she really just puts it in such plain, clear, concise language. it is a true gift when you can find a lawyer that does that. So good job, Rosa. I mean, I think the big problem is that the clerk of the court reads the stuff and goes, oh, it says immunity, cool, I can just throw this away, and doesn't ever bother reading what she wrote. And the other big problem is that when she filed, she immediately asked for a pro se hearing, which is what you would do when you're filing a restraining order against anybody. Is that you get a hearing before the judge to explain your case, and then you grant a temporary restraining order or whatever, and there's no other party there. And never granted her that hearing. Never granted a hearing between her and FINRA in front of the court to explain these things. And made a ruling without ever seeing anybody in court ever, which is just weird. It's very weird. I mean, that's something you would do like maybe in an anti-slap case, but this isn't a slap lawsuit. So she did a good job. She's consistently just hitting what I think are home runs, explaining the situation, and then FINRA comes back with these jumbled, convoluted responses that if anybody compared the two of them would go, oh, they're admitting to crimes. But they say, I'm immune. I can do whatever I want. I've got immunity, which, that's great if you are, I don't know, the son of a diplomat who's parking illegally all over Washington, D.C. But when you're a regulatory organization and your decisions consistently are against the people you're supposed to protect, then you are not working under the purview of the powers granted to you by Congress. Your job is to protect retail investors, not harm them. And if you're harming them, you do not have immunity in that situation. Okay. Cat. Fat guy. Oh, you're just such a sleepy little asthmatic boy, aren't you? Okay, Leo B, huzzah, first especially early. Welcome, Leo B. So I'm now officially like an hour and a half behind the chat because I spent the last 30 minutes reading and playing intros over and over again. William Morgan, Patrick Byrne, you have a victory to look forward to next week. It's not a total victory, but in this war, you might think of it as an Iwo Jima victory at least. So if you are thinking of doing something stupid, just hold on 72 hours. You'll be glad you did. Okay. So Patrick Byrne is talking about something. What could Patrick Byrne talk about? Let's see here. The former CEO and founder of Overstock. Overstock just got awarded the intellectual property of Bed Bath & Beyond as the stalking horse bidder. And then Thursday is the auction for Bye Bye Baby. There might be some squirrely things going on here. Indeed. Yes. All right. Quantum Shore, Houston. Hope you have the time to go over Rosa's new filing. Just did. Or at least the highlights, anything new. Thanks for your time. Well, we went through the whole thing, so we got that for you, Quantum Shore. Danny Motes. What's the probability of ICANN and or Cohen being involved in the BBBY buyout? I think in the Bye Bye Baby buyout, especially very high. And we'll know by Thursday, because that's the auction for Bye Bye Baby. So what happened was Overstock got selected as the stalking horse bidder, and then bids were due to go above their $21 million bid, and no one bid, which I think was purposeful and probably discussed ahead of time, because what everyone wants is Bye Bye Baby. Okay. Jason Blackwell. Yeah, Houston. Tell that story about the interaction you had with the prostitute in Las Vegas. Never mind. It was horrible. That still cracks me up. I think I told you guys about this. So I was in Vegas last November for my friend's bachelorette party, and we had done like a food tasting tour. We gone to all these Michelin rated restaurants, and just like I was just distended. I was so full. And you know me, I'm a burpy guy. And trying to get to sleep, and I know like, fiery burps. So I had to go get some Tums. Well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. The little shop in Caesars where we were staying was closed. There was no Tums to get there. So I'm like, okay, I gotta walk a few blocks. get to the CVS. If you've ever been to Las Vegas, these hotels are like little islands, and there's like a road that is a roaring river. And you have to take these little bridges over the road to get places. So you go one corner and you pop over to one side and got to go over another side and get to the CVS. And so sometimes there's stairs, sometimes there's an escalator, and one of the escalators was broken. I went to the CVS, got my bottle of Tums. And I also noticed there's a box of peanut M&Ms, and one of the girls in our hotel room had eaten like the $30 box of M&Ms out of the mini bar. And I was like, well, I'm going to buy this box for $2 and replace the box that was in the mini bar, and we're going to save ourselves $30 or $28 or whatever. And heading back to the hotel. I got Tums in one hand, got my peanut M&Ms in the other, and one of the little stairways that goes up and over on the bridge, the escalator's broken, so I have to go up the stairs. As I'm going up the stairs, going upstairs, I'm watching where I'm going, and this gorgeous woman is gliding down the stairs in front of me, and I'm like, oh, don't make eye contact. I just made eye contact. And as she passes by me, she like grabs me by the arm, and she's like, hey, how you doing? Let's go back to your hotel room and have ourselves a nice time. I'm like, no, I'm going to bed. She's like, oh, come on, baby. It's Las Vegas. We have a great night. We have a party. I was like, girl, I've got Tums in one hand, peanut M&Ms in the other. Like, sexy time's not happening tonight. And she just went, feel better, baby. Patted me on the shoulder. I kept walking. If I ever have like a band, I'm going to call it Feel Better, Baby. Feel better, baby. Okay. Justin Stewart hit the like and draws off. Well, it's easy for you to say. I know your friend. William Morgan, 4-6. Oh, William Morgan's talking about the court ruling may take another 4 to 6 months. It may take some time. We have to wait for another response from FINRA, so they got like 30 days to do that. And then who knows what the judge says after that. Jason Blackwell, hey Houston, update the scoreboard. Titanic 2, billionaires 0. Yeah. So if you hadn't heard, apparently the U.S. Navy, through the listening devices, heard the implosion of the submarine and basically knew the submarine was gone. But they couldn't verify that. Certainly it could have been tectonic activity, could have been other actions by militaries around the world. It can be quite hard to triangulate sounds in the oceans because different salt layers and thermal layers cause sound waves to refract and bend and all sorts of stuff. But they figured they heard the implosion, and I don't know if you guys know what an implosion truly becomes, but it is gnarly. So a little sub like that has just on the bulbs, just on the titanium ends at 4,000 meters, is around 25 million pounds of pressure on either side. So, like, as someone pointed out, like, you take a giant, like the biggest cruise ship in the world weighs about 50 million pounds. So if you're to put that submarine end to end and stick a giant cruise ship on top of it, that's how much pressure was pushing down on that tiny little 22 foot long, 6 foot wide submarine. And if it were to implode, we're talking, pressures that are 300 to 400 times what our atmospheric pressure is. If it were to implode, it would implode so quickly in about 1/30th of a second. And the air would be compressed so tightly in that 1/30th of a second that the air inside the cabin for a moment would flash to temperatures beyond the surface of the sun. We're talking like 50,000 degrees, and then basically squish them out of existence, and they would not be recognizable things anymore. They'd be atomized into the ocean, and then just a slurry that spreads away. Absolutely horrifically quick way to go, but I assume better than slowly suffocating to death, trapped inside the confines of the Titanic, or I don't know, that someone's playing music. So this is an awful way to go. But they had to do their due diligence, and they had to go look for it. So they once they found the wreckage, then they're like, okay, yeah, we heard this thing go kablooey. But to give hope, to give that, okay, maybe it wasn't the implosion we heard, maybe it was rock shifting, tectonic action, earthquake somewhere, whatever, And until you locate the wreckage, then you're like, okay, yeah, these guys went quick. Yeah, it was such a poorly engineered product with so many corners cut. It's just, when people complain about regulation, they complain, oh, these building codes have gotten out of control or whatever. The reason why building codes exist is because somebody cut corners somewhere and people died. So you have your studs at certain distances inside a wall, because without that, buildings fell apart and collapsed on people, and there wasn't enough structural integrity. So you make those rules. Like, oh, bullshit. I just come in and expect and see that I make the studs right. Yes, because people are cheap and cut corners. Every stud is money. So you have to have someone come in and go, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we got enough studs in this wall. We're good to go. Every single time you see a regulation like that, it's because someone died. And to create an entity whose private company whose entire goal is to skirt the laws of physics in order to like save some cash and like be renegades who move fast and break things. The thing about moving fast and breaking things is that sometimes people die. So you want to have those regulations in place because they save things like your CEO from being squished into a thimble. And that's just the way. Okay, now I close that door. I gotta open the window. 1 sec. Whew. It's really warm in here now that I close that door. Okay. So, Mike, you want to come back in? Come on. There you go. All right. They done having their conversations out there? This will be good. Got the window open. Got the door open. Got the happy little monkey butt. No. No, they're just having lots of conversations. Okay. Vegeta de Luffy. Forbes talking smack about MMTLP holders again. Annoying. Yeah. Seriously, the article was like, naked shorting doesn't happen, on the heels of the SEC fining SEBI for naked shorting and using it to manipulate stocks. Weird. And weird how that one hedge fund was involved in both MMTLP and metamaterials. Naked shorting doesn't happen except for when it does, which is all the fucking time. Constantly. Decatur Raw, happy birthday, Houston. Can you speculate on how effed up the shorts are being that ICANN owns all the bonds and now we are in the pink sheets, no halts, bitches? Yeah, so if a deal is made where I gotta close this door more. Just loud roommates today. If a deal is made where people retain their stock and ownership in the company, and all the debt is wiped out, just weird things will happen, man. And on the OTC, there are no halts. There's no circuit breaker. So if there is a weird squeeze for some reason, it can go that way in a hurry, in an instant. So buckle up. Or it withers and dies. One or the other. Bex, hey, just happy birthday. Plans for the weekend? How do you host and feed 400 people? Well, it's easy. You go to Costco and you buy a whole bunch of buns and a whole bunch of burgers and a whole bunch of veggie burgers and a whole bunch of hot dogs. And then you put them all into a big giant freezer. And as people ask for burgers, you take them out and you make them a burger. And you do that until they all go home or you run out of burgers. And then everybody who comes, like, should I bring something? So yeah, bring a salad, bring a dessert, bring a side, whatever. And they do. And everyone gets fed over like a 12-hour period. I think most years I make the last burger about 3 or 4 a.m. So it's a long one. It's a marathon. And then I sleep for 24 hours. There is, you can see the aftermath of the first 4th of July ever. Oops, that's the wrong. I want to go to Google Earth. There we go. Come on, Google Earth. Get into this modder. Go there. Exit Street View. We're going to go to bing, bing. Go to my old house. Bring up the old Google Earth. Okay. So, in the world. Oh, that's the wrong Shepherd Way. Bam, bam, bam. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, so this is my old house right here. They've remodeled, they've built a new fence, the yard's different. But if we go back to, I believe it's July 5th, 2012. 11, 12, 13, 12. Oh, I missed July 7th. There we go. That is the remnant of the first 4th of July. And there are some of those blobs represent people. This is taken at probably 10 a.m. There are people passed out in my yard from the 4th of July, and I find that awesome. It was a great time had by all. And if you are in Bainbridge Island, Washington, come to the 4th of July, and we will whoop it up something fierce, and you guys will have a blast. Oh, chat reset. Dang it. Oh, reset already, and I am like 2 hours behind in the chat, so okay. We Wild, good night and happy weekend all. Bye-bye, We Wild. Keith Chapman, William, what do you think Patrick is talking about? Oh, I think he's talking about overstock and Bed Bath and weird things that might be happening. Michael Steegs, Houston, what are the consequences of the records deleted by JP Morgan? Is this all about credit default swaps? JP Morgan deleted 47 million files by accident. That happen to be files that regulators and law enforcement have been asking for a long time. And my guess is they'll get a slap on the wrist and be, oh, don't do that again. When in fact, they should just take them all to jail. Right? I mean, if you and I are being investigated by the government for whatever, bank robbers, we're, I don't know, what have you, right? If you and I deleted a whole bunch of documents that the government was trying to get from us because of doing an investigation, we would go to jail for obstruction. Accidental or not. It was an accident. I didn't mean to delete all the incriminating evidence, Your Honor. The judge would go, well, you're being held in contempt, and they're going to charge you with obstruction, and that's going to be the case now. JP Morgan won't get charged with that. They'll get like a $10,000 fine, and then they'll go, oh, don't do that again. JP Morgan go, okay, I won't. But the first rule in life is that if you make a mistake and it makes you money, you'll be making that mistake again and again and again for the rest of your life. Right? And JP Morgan knows it, and the regulators are powerless to do anything about it, apparently. But no, they should charge JP Morgan with obstruction. Send, their asses to jail. Put some cuffs on Jamie Dimon. Let him defend that. Jamie Dimon, you're in charge of this company. Why are you deleting stuff? And he's got to point his fingers at someone to blame, right? And once he points his finger at people aren't going to want to work for him anymore. Because, I'll do stuff Jamie Dimon tells me to do, and then he's going to send me to jail. Why do you think people are flipping on Trump so much? Because Trump's like, no, it wasn't me, it was him. And then they've got to turn state's evidence against Trump and be like, no, Trump told me to do these things. It happens. Lost Waves, are we doomed? Probably. Metalocalypse trailer is out, and Metalocalypse 4 is coming. In Rich ME, hi Houston, how many shares do you have of BBYQ? Man, like 87, 8,800, somewhere in there, across a couple of different brokerages. Lost Waves, Houston, do you enjoy listening to Typo Negative? Yes. My girlfriend's girlfriend, Christian Woman. That song is amazing. No, the type of negative is incredible, and I wish that poor dude never died so young. But he like apparently had like a septic shock and a sick kitten and didn't want to go to the doctor's office and leave the sick kitten behind, and then he died. So he ended up leaving the sick kitten behind anyway. But a giant, what's that guy's name? He's like 6'9", just a mountain of a guitarist. And what's that dude's name? Type of negatively guitarist. Peter Steele. Yeah. He was huge. Should have been like a tight end or something. Okay. Tom Zaki, happy birthday, Houston. Shit is hitting the fan in Russia right now. Your thoughts? My thoughts are, it is great for the Ukrainians. Wagner is hitting the Russian positions, right? And that makes it easy for the Ukrainians to move through and kick everybody out. Also, I can't say this right. Prigozhin, he essentially in one of his main address, he was like, "Look, they lied to you about coming into Ukraine. It was all a big giant lie." So that makes me think that he's going to convince the Russian soldiers to leave Ukraine and join him in fighting against the Ministry of Defense. So that should clear out some room for the Ukrainians to recapture land. Now, what happens after the coup/civil war? I have no idea. If it's successful, Prigozhin goes in, he probably takes over the country, kicks Putin out, shoots Putin into a cannon or whatever. And who knows where his focus will go after that, because remember, he's a private military contractor, so he wants to do war around the world for money. If it's unsuccessful, then everybody involved gets lined up against the wall and disappears forever. But by then, they'll have done so much damage to the military, the Russian military, that they won't have the manpower, the weaponry, or anything else to try and reinvade and take over those spots in Ukraine. It's definitely going to tear apart and utilize a lot of resources that Russia desperately needed for Ukraine, and they're not going to have it anymore because they're trying to stave off, like, the Kremlin being overthrown by private military contractors. Just before I came to air, there was recordings of gunfights happening in Moscow. I have no idea as to the authenticity of it, but it sounds like this was definitely pre-planned in a concerted effort by all parties involved to militarily take over the Russian government. So, and Putin's statements so far are weirdly middle ground. He's just like, well, it's my situation. Your government's under attack by a guy you pay. That seems to me it should be a little more concerning, and they should like not play both sides. Like, well, if Shoigu is gone, then I guess I'll deal with this guy. No, but I think you're next, Putin, if they overtake the Ministry of Defense. So it's going to be a crazy one to watch. Was hot 1961 with Rosa's new updated filing. Will it still be the same judge that denied her previous filing, or will it be a different judge assessing the updated recent filing? Same judge. Now, if the judge rejects this one, I bet Rosa files an appeal and it goes to the appellate court, which would be probably a three-judge panel. And their ruling, all you need is two judges to go, this doesn't seem right. And they go, we're sending it back to the lower court. Yes, FINRA can be sued. And then the Judge Hinkle will actually start having to read Rosa's filings if that's the case. They go, oh, fine, I guess I'll read this stuff. Then he's going to go, oh, yeah, they fucked up. So, yeah. Aaron Salentine, Houston. How the tables have turned? Did you see what happened today on Finger Motion stock? Was down 13%, but up 22% from the bottom. Next week or two going to be spicy short squeeze. I looked at it and I went and I bought some calls for August. So let's see where it goes. They're up. That doubled. They're worth double, and now they're back down to where I bought them at the end of the day. because of volatility. I mean, it's price spiked, so I should have sold and then bought back in, had twice as many calls. Lee Meadows. Hey, Houston. Thank you very much for your donation. I really appreciate support. Up at 130 pounds. Oh, yeah, Lee Meadows is still trying to get his mechanized mobility scooter. Let's see here. Come on. We'll get the link back up for you, Lee. One sec. I gotta find it and open up and get the PayPal link. Come on, you can do it. Okay, where's that link? There it is. So, oh, Google Earth, go away. Lee got hit by a car. He's in real rough shape, and he's trying to raise money to get a mobility scooter. So if we can help him out, by all means, please do. Those things aren't cheap. So yeah, we'll help Lee if we can. So there's the link. I put the link in the chat, and here's the link to the PayPal fundraising page for him. So yeah, help brother out. Exclusive 605. I love tuning in. And first I hear is Houston frustrated deep growl. Happy to hear. Yes. Another top stock to explode with finger motion. Really? Exclusive 605. Does Wagner Group have tanks in Air Force? I don't know about jets, but they've got helicopters and tanks for sure. And artillery and everything else. My guess is they might not have fighter jets, but they probably do have transport planes and things like that. Quantum Shore, Wagner Group are war criminals. They should be treated as such. Doesn't matter that they suddenly decided they are, in fact, on the losing side. They are definitely war criminals. And I hope that they both die in this ring. Much like the cage fight between Zuckerberg and Musk. I hope they both lose. I think Zuckerberg can kick the shit out of Musk if that happens. Yeah, I hope they both lose. Donna Bell, I see UVXY today. Thoughts on future direction? UVXY went through their reverse split. I think it was like a 20 or 30 to 1 reverse split. So their price looks crazy high right now. UVXY and VIXY also did a reverse split. So you can see here, like the price was, it must have been 10 to 1 because I think the price was $2 and something. And so now it's $20 and something. So yeah, they did a reverse split and the price went back up. So it wasn't that you spent $2, you get $20 now. You have to spend $20 and you're getting $20 still. So yeah, the price shot right back up. Do that reverse split. But it's up overall simply because the market is red overall. William Morgan, June 23rd, 2023. A market maker is asked to settle with GTII. They're being represented by Wes Christian. Which group was it? Allegheny? No. The one's getting wiped out, monkey. The judge is like, yeah, you guys fucked up. You aren't going to exist anymore. And then FINRA's even kicking them out. They're trying to settle because they know they can't close their positions. That's why. Fallon Jasovsky, what about the Russian nuclear threat not being obvious? Yeah, Russia's always going to be a nuclear threat. They're crazy Slavs. My roommate's a crazy Slav. He's like, they don't think in the terms of, oh, I lost, guess we should sue for peace. They're like, if I can't have it, no one can. And they fight that way. So yeah, there's still going to be a crazy nuclear threat, and then now there might be a crazy nuclear threat with private military contractors being controlled as nuclear weapons, and who knows what those pirates will do with it. Quantum shortly, she is providing facts of the share counts not lining up. That's a way stronger position than look at these trades on the last day. Yeah. Yeah. Fred Jones, Houston, you read that so well. Can you read it again? No, my voice can't do that. KYP's here. Hello. PeepParp04. I think that the power that B have gotten to your roommates, they are sabotaging your stream. I know. Well, I don't think they're talking anymore, so I can open the door. Here we go. Oh, just instantly like 6 degrees cooler in here. Houston Max Headroom cosplay. Carlos R. Whoa, good Wade. Just saying hello. We'll listen later on after I scarf my tacos. Love you, man. Blessings. Well, thank you, Carlos R. Stephanie L. Hi there. Hope you had a belated happy birthday. Can you explain what futures are? I want to invest in UVXY, but I'm completely confused by it. Cliff notes will suffice. UVXY and other ETFs are associated with the VIX. What they do is they buy puts on companies that are part of the S&P 500 and on the S&P 500 itself. So if the S&P 500 drops, they get a big payday. And what they're constantly doing is they're constantly rolling over those puts into more from the future. And so the price will decay over time. And then eventually when the market goes down, the puts trigger and the value of the ETF skyrockets and then starts to decay over time again. And that's the essential thesis of it. So if you are buying long-term calls for something like UVXY, what you're looking for is somewhere between when you buy and when the contract would expire is when the market will have a huge downfall. UVXY will win a whole bunch of money from their puts, and the value of them will skyrocket, and you'll make a fortune. That's the thesis behind it. But overall, like it decays. They've got to do a reverse split, so it goes back up here and decays until there's a big market crash. Same judge, yes. Okay. Hey, that got me through a huge chunk of the chat right there. All right. Kirk Wilson, what is the money in versus money out if below 25K, not unlimited day trades? Is it best to buy an exercise option unlimited per day or sell options 3 times within the trade week? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. What I think you're asking is you buy options, exercise them, sell, buy options, exercise them again. The only way you'll be able to exercise them is if they go green, if they go in the money. But you can, like what I could have done with my finger motion options today is, I bought them at 20 something cents and they hit 78 cents today per share. So I basically almost tripled my holdings of those options. I could have sold them once, bought back 3 times as many. So say I had 10, I could buy back and get 30 of them now. And then if this price spikes again, I might be able to 3x that and buy again. Or the price could just keep going and then I miss out. I can do that 3 times for day trading, unless the value of those options suddenly get me above $25,000, which to get that, how many would I have to have? One sec. Clear 25 divided by, let's say, $30. I'd have to get 833 of those options to be able to get above $25,000, and then I can buy and sell all I want. So let's say I did that 3 times and I multiplied. So I went from 10 to 30 and then 30 to 90 on the 3rd time and then 90 to 270. So let's say I got the 270 of those, if it happened to do that cycle in 1 week. If you're able to predict it and ride that wave, you'll probably make more money doing the cycle multiple times than you would trying to count on the options you bought going in the money and exercising them, because you have no idea if the price will get high enough for you to do that. Jenny Bernard, more importantly, in regards to Burns' tweet, in the comments, someone mentioned the shorts and welcome back. He replied with heart, prayer, angel. So there goes any FUD on it not being related. Ta-da! William Morgan, a market maker, has asked to settle GTI's lawsuit concerning spoofing. What's Christian represents to? Oh, yeah, we heard that one. Yeah. Yep. We'll see where it goes. William Morgan, tap the like button. No need for violence. Smash the like button. Violence is fine. Quantum Shore, I don't understand why Top Secret Navy Project is boasting about how they totally heard the implosion. Like, is Top Secret even Top Secret anymore? I think what it was is that everyone knows they got microphones everywhere in the oceans. And we just, they know that tech exists. I think what it was they didn't want to say, hey, this thing imploded, and then be wrong. And that it was like a geologic event and it was a underwater landslide or something. And then they discover like 5 dead corpses in a tube at the bottom of the ocean floor, simply because you just don't want, you want to until you find the wreckage, you don't want to be like, okay, we were right, they're gone. Kelly Reed, happy birthday, Houston. How do you determine a stock's share value? What's your thinking on No Labs and GME? Well, both are heavily shorted. One is a serious future play for a very, very strong medical stock, which would be No Labs. I would figure, just looking at the number of diabetic people in the U.S. alone, the fact that they would have a subscription service to be paid for by insurance, you're looking at a company that would be making $30 billion a year, and a huge portion of that would be profit. Like, a huge portion would be profit. They'd buy the device, and that would be that's the cost of making the device, and everything's subscription after that. So it's like a printer. You sell the printer cheap, and then you charge people a bunch of money for the ink, right? And the ink is what makes them the profit. That'd be the same thing with the device that's reading for doing glucose monitoring. And if you got a company that's $30 billion a year in sales and a huge portion, let's say 50% of that's profit, then you got yourself a $100 billion or more company. And if the stock number of shares don't change that much, you're looking at $1,000 per share for the current existing shares. GameStop, on the other hand, is incredibly manipulated. Estimates from how many fake shares exist already put the value of actual shares at probably around $1,000 a share. So if there's several billion fake shares out there, but only 300 million real shares, you take like the total value of all those fake shares and divide it by the number of actual shares, and you'll probably get somewhere in $1,000, $1,200 a share. But again, like with shorted stocks, the value of the shares doesn't necessarily have to do with the fundamentals of the company, but to do with the potential liabilities of those who have shorted it. So a lot when it comes due. Brandon Cowells, Houston, with all the double intros and triple intros amongst all the other tech issues you have from time to time, can we vote to rename your show Houston? Get your shit together. Hey, we all have problems, and sometimes those problems are a shit show. Julianne noticed my TD account was minus $38, TVXY reverse split, and I got nothing for my 6 stocks. TD charged me a $38 fee for the reverse split, $6 per stock for a stock that was $2.14. Yeah, TD seems to be the wrong one to have when a stock does a reverse split of some kind. They always charge everyone for it, and no one else does that as far as I know. So I would call them up and yell at them and be like, fuck you, I'm taking my business elsewhere, you dumb, stupid assholes. And then see what the response is. Let's go full Karen on them, Julianne. I want to talk to your manager. That's what you should do. Kelly Reed, Ryan Cohen tweeted, I want a thumb like Warren Buffett. Is this him challenging Berkshire share value? I mean, I want a thumb war with Warren Buffett. I want a thumb like Warren. I'm not sure. But yeah. Let's do it. Amber Fire, right. Houston, can you see the forest for the trees? I am self-aware. This could sound cryptic. I mean, like literally see the trees. Yeah, I can see it. You guys can't because it's a glowing white ball of heat behind me, but I can adjust my eyes and see it just fine. I wonder if okay, if I move that, will it make it so you can start to see the trees? There you go. You can see some trees back there. Oh, blinding white. We started GoFundMe for window AC this summer. My fundraiser will be one of these stocks is going to go boom boom. If the stock price on one of these stocks actually explodes, one of the first purchases I'm going to make is going to be to remove the oil furnace from my home. Just take it out, throw it in the bushes, whatever, and I'm going to put a forced air system in where it is so that I can turn on cool air and have from that vent up there just rain on me beautiful cool air. That's what I'm going to do. And then I won't have to spend like $3,000 every winter on heating oil to keep this house warm in the winter. I can just flip a switch and the hydroelectric power plants of Washington State will do all the work for me. Rupert Trooper. Houston, what are your thoughts about former CEO of Overstock tweets that might involve BBBY? I'm curious. I've got my shares. Hopefully it's enough to make a dent. Paul Engelbrecht Weeble will not let me buy BBYQ. You won't be able to buy BBYQ on anyone that uses only Apex for trading. So your trading apps like Webull and Robinhood, you have no access to the OTC. So you have to get a big boy broker like Fidelity in order to buy BBYQ. Let me destroy the murder weapon. Yes, Daniel. That's exactly what JP Morgan was doing. Derek Killhorse, I'll have to watch this later, but did he see and explain this unfunded debt of BBBY? Maybe nothing, but haven't had time to look? Huh? Unfunded debt? Honestly, I'd ask me again later when I have a chance. Daniel Wynn, will somebody mine the moon within 50 years? Yes. I think more like 15 will have started operations to mine. And about 4 or 5 will be on the surface of the moon, building permanent habitats. And shortly after that, we'll be extracting our first helium-3 so we can bring it back. So we can start running fusion experiments with that helium-3. We still have enough helium-3 on Earth to do that with. We have to go to space and get it. Alpine, thank you. I knew it started with an A. Alpine is the GTII ones that are being booted because they suck and of losing the lawsuit massively. He's still saying we still have a chance in MTLP. Yes. Daniel Wynn, what's been going on with the energy sector? UNG has been ripping lately. I don't know. There was a thing I read yesterday that was the energy prices are going up due to fears about production this winter. That might have to do with Russia slowing down production and Saudi Arabia slowing down production. But who knows what happens now that Russia's a civil war? That may cause oil prices to just suddenly spike in ways they weren't going to before. Who is this? Sorry, I'm getting just my phone is blowing up at the moment. Okay. So Ordinary Angler, Houston MMTLP did not exist prior to October 6th, 2021. It was, I believe, named MMAT1 or something else on our OG accounts. This is true. It was not originally MMTLP. It was a non-tradable preferred share. Basically, it was the bank account of the Torchlight Holdings. It's like you own partial ownership in that bank account. And it got trading due to GTS essentially fabricating permission from the company, from the issuers, in this case Med Materials, saying, yeah, no, it's all okay to trade. And FINRA was like, okay, good enough for me. And then when the issuers came and complained to FINRA, like, no, we did not allow this to trade. We do not want this to trade. We did not sign off on this. Our signatures have been forged. FINRA was like, too late, man. So when it comes to regulating, FINRA didn't do any regulating. They just sort of did what GTS told them to do. Chris Taylor's here. Hello. Juliana, they did a one-time rollback on the fees. Okay, yeah. Just complain away, man. Yell at them. Okay, am I caught up? Oh my goodness. Since you're at birthday, Houston, can we go over Rosa's new filing? Oh, we did, like an hour ago. So just rewind. You'll do it. Ethereal Wasteland. Hey, Houston. How are the discernible remnants of the Titan if the passengers vaporize under the pressure? Well, I mean, there still be like chunks of the contraption that you'll find. So then crunch and then whatever. But we, as corporal beings, don't have the structural integrity of titanium or 5-inch thick carbon fiber. So if and when an implosion happens, we are delicate little flowers compared to carbon fiber and titanium. So there won't be much to see of the human form after that thing goes crunch and you get cooked to 50,000 degrees. Oh, Gio, any thoughts on the ticker NEOBF? I don't know if it was you or someone else asked me. I looked at it and I was like, I don't know. No thoughts yet. I did a quick look at it, and that's all I've ever done. I've not gone any further on that. Okay. Well, that is all in the chat there. Let me just. I've been talking for like an hour and a half, and I bet all sorts of crazy things have happened. Okay. Well, we got Russia investigating Wagner chief. Russia accuses Wagner chief of urging armed mutiny. Russia accuses Wagner chief of inciting armed rebellion. So, sounds like a lot's going on with Wagner. Wagner chief accuses Russia military of leadership of bombing his forces. Fow's response. Well, I mean, I think CNN, you're a little bit behind. That was 15 minutes ago, and I think he's already done the response as of several hours ago. And yeah, so looks like we've got just what's popping up on the newest news things are very sparse. Russia investigates mutiny as Wagner chief says evil military leaders must be stopped. Okay, but what about like the fighting that they're actually trying to kill each other? They're the Guardian. NBC News, Russian mercenary chief vows retaliation after he says Russia killed 2,000 fighters. Kremlin alleges armed mutiny. Again, there's fighting going on. Like, I vow a response. It's already happening, NBC News. You guys are so far behind the ball on this one. So, I mean, they already hacked Russian TV, and we're having Prigozhin giving an address to the Russian public. These guys like need to follow some open source intelligence people on Twitter. Be what they need to do. Yeah. Russia charges Wagner leader with organizing an armed uprising after threats. Well, there you go. So it's going to get spicy. That's for sure. I don't know how long the Wagner Group can do such battle simply because they get their arms from Russia. And that was part of Prigozhin's complaints back when they're trying to take Bakhmut, was that he was like, you need to send me more bullets and mortar shells, or else this is bullshit. So if you already don't have enough weapons to do the fight the Ukrainians, how long are you going to last fighting Russia? Well, Russia doesn't have weapons either, so it's going to be interesting. Yeah, very interesting indeed. Lone Wolf, Ethereal Wasteland. Not all components are void. Solids would be affected by pressure. Well, solids wouldn't be affected by pressure. This is true. Lee Meadows, Houston. Follow-up question on the moon mining. Who do you think will be the first organization country to start the mining? One of two. It'll either be China or Bezos and company with NASA. One of those two are going to do it first. And right now, I see it kind of neck and neck as to who's going to get there first. So we got ourselves an honest space race on our hands. Now, China is talking about wanting to do their base on the dark side of the moon and put everything on the dark side of the moon, essentially so that I think we can't spy on them or something. I think that is an unnecessary risk and something that, I understand, like, oh, one of us will have our telescopes and see what you're doing at all times, but you also have no ability to communicate. You have to create a huge satellite network in order to just communicate with people on the dark side of the moon. And if anything happens, well, it's going to cost you a fortune to go figure out what happened. Whereas if you were on the light side of the moon, you can see them all the time. You've got a straight line of communication at all times. All you need are listening stations on the Earth, which we already have. And if anything goes wrong, well, you can see it. Oh, yep, that went wrong. So I think it's a bit risky. It's kind of putting your base on the dark side of the moon at this point is kind of like building an uncertified submarine to go down to 4,000 meters when it's not designed for that. What interesting thing I read about that submarine is that the goal wasn't to take tourists to the depths. Like, that's just sort of like proof of concept for them. Their goal was to produce a whole bunch of cheaply made submarines that oil companies can have crews use and basically go down and inspect drilling rigs and stuff. So basically what they want to do is create a whole bunch of cheap submarines to just squish and kill everyday people, not just billionaires. Pete Tong, oh, thank you. Happy birthday. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for the personal support you've given my ideas, thoughts. It's appreciated. Other than William P., yourself, the MMTLB community thinks I'm a shill, funster, or edgy. No, bud, like, you did some good work. Trying to get traction in the gray market, I have no idea how to do that, but your website was awesome. And more power to you. You're not a fudster or a shill or a hedgy. You're just a dude trying to figure out, hey, how do we get this market open back up for all these stocks? So, yeah, thank you. It's greatly appreciated. Eights. 187. It wasn't NextBridge's fault, but they need to talk to the community more. Investors are investigating and filing lawsuits while they are just being quiet. As an MMAT investor, I want this solved ASAP. I'll use my MMTLP money to buy more MMAT and hopefully no reverse split. It took me forever to get back under the $1 average. Do you think it'll be a few years before they sell the land? I honestly don't know. The land it represents, and I talked about this kind of briefly on the last show, because that sale that happened for the Colorado oil fields at like 330 million barrels, went for 4.7 billion, which puts it about $14 a barrel for a sale. I think the biggest thing the NextBridge needs to do is to actually produce oil. Is that when the next holes they drill, they need to make them functional commercial wells and just start sucking oil out and storing it into barrels or whatever, getting them into trucks and just shipping. Just getting the infrastructure in place that you're showing you can produce X number of barrels a day from this one well and the next test well. And each test well you do, make it a functional well. And yeah, it'll cost money. And yeah, you have to take out loans to do it. So then you can produce X number of thousands of barrels a day and pay off those loans. And as long as you're producing, and you're producing, a commercial amount of oil, then all of a sudden the big boys go, oh, this is actually productive. Maybe they do have 3.5 billion barrels. Maybe we should cut a check for $50 billion and buy the company, right? Oh, roommate's cooking something that smells good. This smells really good. Okay. And that's just sort of what I think needs to happen for them to truly sell the land for what it's worth. Is to just get the infrastructure in place and show that you are being productive. Daniel Bernard, supposedly Moscow military base on fire. Woo! Man, it's gonna be a crazy night. Crazy night, and they're gonna wake up to just chaos in the morning. So many Russians went to bed going, oh, that's the night, and then they're going to wake up and discover like, oh my God, we're under attack. And it's going to be just wild tomorrow. Or at like midnight tonight when they're all waking up. Chris Taylor, I'm late to the party. Did you talk about JP Morgan being fined for accidentally deleting millions of emails? Yes. Accidentally deleted 47 million documents. Oops. And there's a warehouse fire, so there's no paper backup. Sorry. Yeah, it's crime, man. $827, happy birthday, old man. Hopefully many more years of streaming in a yacht with MMTLP money. Might not be a yacht. It would probably be an Earth roamer, or at least a thoroughly worked over and 4-wheel drive Toyota Sunraider. Man, I would love that so much. Jim Aeneas Houston, if you drowned in the ocean, like with the Titanic, assuming ocean life didn't eat the corpse during the descent, would a drowned person eventually compress completely? I mean, they would compress the air out of you, and you would need, like, in order for you to, like, be squeezed into something, you have to squeeze the air out. And we have air in us in our lungs and everything, but there isn't, like, air in our cells, so there's not too much to, like, squish out of you that way. There's some maybe in your bloodstream and things. So you, as a corporal form, wouldn't necessarily be, like, squeezed into a tiny little thing. But if you had an outside object and you're surrounded by air and that gets squeezed, well, there's not really nothing much stopping you from being compressed. I posted a video from Mythbusters from years ago where they'd heard the myth about, like, people dying because they're in the pressure suits and they got their diving bell back in the day and their suit loses pressure and then they died. They basically got squished. And so they tested the theory and they put a giant, like, 200 something pound pig into a diving suit and then caused a leak in the diving suit. And the pig didn't just like die. Granted, it was a pig, dead pig, but the entire 200 plus pound pig got sucked up and turned into a meat goo inside the diving bell. So like you had this thing floating along, then shrunk, and then all of a sudden it was a bowling ball. Things like that can happen if the pressure hits you hard enough and you have an outside object that's squeezing on you as a result of that pressure. I remember in, I don't know, 6th grade, we're learning how to use microscopes, and I don't have glass plates for microscope. My microscope is a gem microscope, so I just put gems in there. But if you had the glass slides, right, and you get 2 glass slides, and you kind of use this as an example. I got these 2 cards. So you take 2 glass slides and you put water between them, and then you squish them together. Got 2 glass slides. They're, I don't know, maybe they're 1 inch wide and 2 inches long. And you try to pull those things apart, you will not be able to, because there's 15 pounds of pressure squeezing on this side and on that side and on this side and on that side. So you essentially have 60 pounds of pressure, and you don't have the ability to pull these things apart if you manage to like suction and get water in there so that no air can get in. And the only way you'll be able to get them apart is by sliding them apart and eventually being able to peel them off. If you ever happen to be playing with magnifying glass slides, do that experiment. You will discover what air pressure feels like. Now, if you do that same thing deep down in the ocean, there would be enough force on all sides that you could probably attach like tugboats to each other, and it would be strong enough that it wouldn't pull apart, because just how much pressure. We're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds per square inch. So if you were to have even two little cards like this together down deep in the ocean and try to pull them apart, you'd be looking at 40 to 100,000 pounds of pressure down at those depths. So it's quite incredible how strong that pressure is. We just happen to be used to 15 pounds per square inch because that's what we grew up in. But man, I wouldn't want to be squished. At least if you're going to get squished, make it quick. Not suck up into a diving bell. That one took a little while and was horrific. Raven, Houston, what? What, Raven? Did I miss a Raven something? Raven says, you get that from me. I don't know what I get from you. I'm so confused. Okay. Biggie Lamone, if a company is in a weird place legally, I'd want them to be quiet until absolutely necessary so their hand isn't tipped. That's true. The lawyers for NextBridge are probably like, shh, and go about your business. We'll do the legal stuff. And they're probably told to just shut up. Pete Tong, that's discouraging, but I'll roll. I got something cooking with a nasty group of security lawyers that might rock the Casbah. Ooh. That you'll have to keep me informed on there, Pete. I would love to hear about that. Okay. Cloud K 20 would not be surprised if the carbon hull is shattered. That also very likely. I mean, it's 5 inches thick of carbon, and to make anyone of you ever like play with carbon fiber, done a carbon fiber lay or anything like that? So it's similar to like if you would do like an epoxy resin fiberglass. Like you've got a fiber and then you put a resin in it, and then you do another layer of fiber and resin, and you just line it all up. The difference between carbon fiber and fiberglass is the carbon fiber is thinner, stronger, takes less resin, and you can mold it into these forms all you like. But once it hardens, like that's it. You aren't doing anything else with it. And so the hole apparently was 5 inches thick, all the way around, big carbon fiber tube. And so that takes, I don't know how many layers to get 5 inches thick, but a lot. And in those layers, when it's squished, the outsides can be squished more than the inside, and it can cause delamination to happen. Kind of like when we were talking about the granite rocks the other day, is the heat bears down on a big face like El Capitan, and the outside of the rock gets warm. And it gets warmer at a higher rate than the inside of the rock would that's not exposed to the sun. And as the outside of the rock gets warm, it expands. And as it expands, it bows away from the rest of the rock, and it can crack, shatter, and fall, and then kill a bunch of tourists gawking up at it from down below. Enough deep dives in a carbon fiber tube like that, you can get pressure squishing on this tube, and it can squish at different rates depending upon the thickness, where the thickness it is, and you can start to get delamination happen within that tube, weakening it. So it might survive a single dive down deep below, but some damage happened. And you bring it back up, and the thing has pressure come undone again, get some more delamination, more microfractures, put it back down, it squishes in again, and you get more delaminating happen. It happens a few times. Well, the crush depth rating for that sub may deteriorate over time as a result of that constant pressurization, depressurization that happens. So I don't think it's too outside the possibility that they really use that sub too much and basically cause long-term consequential damage to the laminating process of that carbon hull. So it's oops. Although there was a quote from the CEO was like, "Oh yeah, we move staff and we break things and we do stuff our own way," and he said, "There's a rule that you don't pair carbon fiber with titanium, and we broke that rule." And I looked it up. I don't. If anyone's an engineer who knows why that's a thing, I would love to hear it, because I looked it up and I couldn't find anywhere that said, you can't pair a titanium piece with a carbon fiber piece, and why you wouldn't be able to do that. I know that you don't want pieces that compress at different rates, because it can cause fatigue. Like, let's say the carbon fiber hole compresses an inch, right? And then the titanium bulbs compress half an inch. Well, where you bolt into that titanium could have incredible leverage with the bolts, and that could affect and delaminate and crack the carbon fiber. So maybe that would be it. I don't know. I'd like, if an engineer knows, tell me. It's kind of like you don't want objects that when they get hot, they expand at different rates, because that can cause fatiguing. I had this old, when I moved to Hawaii, the first car I got was a 1988 Nissan Pathfinder. And the thing was just a hunk of junk. Like everything in Hawaii, just rusty bucket. I drove, it did its things, but whenever in the wintertime, when we had a specific low temperature, and that low temperature was around 67 degrees Fahrenheit in Hawaii, which you guys are like 67, that's not very low, but for Hawaii, that's cold. My car couldn't start. And what I discovered was I took the fuel filter off of the carburetor. It was at the butterfly valve. If you ever looked inside a carburetor, you have this valve that flips and allows more air in, so that the deeper it goes, the more fuel is going to get pushed in the engine, the more air is going to go in, and you're going to have more RPMs. And the shallower it goes, less air is going in, less power, less RPMs. Well, the casing for the carburetor looked like it was steel, and the butterfly valve that let the air in was aluminum. And what would happen at 67 degrees was that I think the aluminum didn't contract enough, and the steel contracted too much, and the valves got stuck. And so I'd take a screwdriver and hammer the valves open, and then start the car, and the truck was like, because the valves were all the way open, and then it would warm up and go back to normal again. That only happened right around 67 degrees because of the thermal expansion rates were different for steel and aluminum. The same thing can happen for how something gets compressed. And so I guess if you're going to say don't combine titanium with carbon, it's probably because they compress at different rates. And that puts fatigue with the titanium bolts into the carbon fiber hull. And then, oops, that's you done screwed up, and you just used titanium essentially to leverage the breakup of the carbon fiber. I mean, my hypothesis anyway. I'm sure there's some engineer who can correct me on that one. Lone Wolf, what's the theoretical potential of finger squeeze? Not a clue. From stuff that Aaron sent me is that there's one particular hedge fund that has sold several hundred million more shares than exist, and it's shorted to like 130% right now. So I figured, we'll buy some call options and see what happens by end of August. So if it's more than it is now, fantastic. I'll take it. Judas Miami, armored vehicles lined up at headquarters of the Minister of Defense and Kremlin. Got his popcorn ready. Oh boy. Things are going to get spicy, man. Things are going to get real spicy. Mully McWoolhead, did you see that guy on Jeopardy that's supposed to be on the Titan? No. Did he not go because he's like winning or something? And that'd be crazy. Cloud K20. I wonder if they expanded contracted at different rates. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why you don't combine them. There is a company here called Levex, and they have like maglev trains that they build up in Port Angeles here in Washington. But a huge part of their contracting is these magnetic coupling units. From what I understand is that, in a submarine, you've got bulkheads and stuff, and you've got compression that can happen in the bulkheads, and they do these magnetic coupling units that allow like the bulkhead to get squeezed and still have like things closed because they'll misalign. So if you've got certain latches on stuff, you can just use a magnetic coupler. I'm not sure if I might be totally saying that wrong. But that's what they make. So stuff squeezes at different rates and different thicknesses and different materials. It's all very weird. Daniel Bernard, lol, another reply once from Burns on his tweets response once from Burns to his tweets to a reply of someone asking, pinning it down specifically, he states, early next week, blunt as hell. Okay. Nikes, Houston. I changed my username just so you could pronounce it. Try this location. Speed of light and then dot after the first 29 space 313. Oh, okay. Is this the for what is it, the Great Pyramid? Okay. Control V. There you go. 29.9 blah 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 space 31.3. Boom. Could understand this. Well, it's because I left a D in there. Whoops. Try that. Oh yeah, totally against the pyramid. Or next to the pyramid, I guess. So, Great Pyramids of Egypt. There's a thing talking about how the speed of light was incorporated into the coordinates of the Great Pyramid. But like the coordinate system was Arabic in creation and not Egyptian. And the reason why it's 360 degrees in a circle is because I thought there was 360 days in a year, but really it's 364.25 days in a year. So should use the Mayan calendar for that. Yeah, it's one of those things. One of those things. Well, McWoolhead, I imagine it's like welding two things together. The weak spot is the weld, the attachment point. It's very likely, yeah. What you're saying, Bat Bones, what you're saying is your car was a victim of the butterfly effect. His daughter or son had a wedding, I believe. Oh, crazy. Dello421A, galvanic corrosion is why mixing titanium carbon fiber is a no-no, differing electrochemical properties. Ah, so electrolysis inside the water, causing one to eat away more than the other. Does that mean you gotta stick one of those zinc tabs on the side of the submarine? I'm gonna look that one up. Thank you, Dello. Bat Bones, I remember when I was a kid, my dad would push me down the hill in an old tire. Man, those were some good years. God damn it. One of my friends posted the ocean had ordered some Five Guys. I was like, oh. No worry, we're all going to hell. Okay, well, I'm at the end of the chats again. Twice I'm at the end of the chats today. Fantastic. Well, looks like Russia's falling apart. Anything updated in the last few minutes here? Wagner Group, Chiefs, Russia rift sparks avalanche of jokes, memes. Well, that's a great headline you got there. Nothing. The Google News headlines are not seem to be up to date with anything. I guess I'm going to have to go back to Twitter. Oh man, too soon, Houston. An anode, yes, thank you, Brett Montgomery. Am I alive? Goodbye. Bye, Raven. So, what's on your mind for the next 6 minutes? Because then I'm leaving. Until then, I guess I can tap my watch. Pat this little furry cat belly. Oh, I gotta stretch it out, buddy. Look at the cat cam. Oh, he's got that pink little belly. Look at his little nipples. Look at those little nipples right there. His little kitty nipples. Oh my goodness. Such a nipply little cat. It's the only cat in the world that, like, does not murder me if I scratch his belly and play with his little kitty nipples. He just loves it so much. Oh, he's such a squishy little sleepy guy, isn't he? Such a squishy little sleepy guy. Okay. Well, go ahead. Saw one post that said maybe the air will trickle down like the wealth is supposed to. Georgia Hurd. Hey, Houston. If you are okay, Twitter OASNT Bunker may be having an open call right now. Oh, kitty. You need your pill. He's having his little asthmatic coughing fit, which sounds like dry heaving. And totally broke my dry heaving circuit in my brain. Because, you know, you hear a cat go, then you grab him and, like, throw him into the bathroom on linoleum or something. I was doing that with this cat for, like, the first month I had him. I was like, oh, guys, you're going to herc up. So finally I called the vet. I was like, hey, I think there's probably a hairball the size of a football inside this thing. And he just can't get it out. And so the vet put her stethoscope on the cat. Like, oh, cat's got asthma. Oh, okay. So now when I hear the dry heaving, I don't freak out. So that means when I get another cat who dry heaves, I won't freak out and they're going to puke everywhere and I'm going to regret it. So, kitty, you've broken my brain with your little coughing fits. Oh, you're such a sweet little guy, though. We'll get a pill in you. Okay. Bat Bones, here's a fun one. What do you think of the double slit experiment, or do you have time to talk about it? A Young's double slit experiment. I don't have time to really talk about it, but it shows that if you do it one way, particles act like a wave. In other ways, particles act like a particle. They're weird. No one quite knows the explanation to it. The way interference patterns happen. But essentially, you have two slits, and you broadcast light through the slits. As they go through, they'll interfere with each other, and they'll create these waves of interference as they hit like the reciprocating instrument. And then you can fire just one slit and pass light through, and it will just beam onto one end, and you're good to go. You can take 2 slits. You can cover one, fire stuff through, cover the other, fire stuff through. You'll get 2 lines. If you have both slits open and you fire 1 photon at a time through each slit, it will still make the interference pattern, and they don't know why. It's weird. Absolutely weird. Weird. Avocado's got to run. Thanks for the show. Thanks, Miss and Peeps, and had some good laughs. Thanks, mods and peeps. Like Molehead, or if I was a billionaire at the bottom of the ocean, I'd just pull myself up my bootstraps. That was also a good one. Okay, I think that's it for the day. I'm gonna get the cat his pill, and I gotta be shoveling off. I might do a late night show tonight if things start getting really weird in Russia, and we'll kind of do a news roundup, I guess. That's what's going on there, because it is a big deal. We've got an active coup happening with a nuclear power, and who knows what the goals are of all those involved. It can get really, really gnarly in a hurry. Party like 1917, guys. And I'll catch you on the flip side in about, 6-ish hours. 5.5 to 6 hours. Okay. I got to click this and toodaloo. Toodaloo! I still have to use this thing. That's I need to use that and go to the Mariners game.